Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to spend your entire life searching for someone you've never met? Imagine waking up every birthday, every Christmas, every family gathering with a question that never leaves your mind. Where is my twin sister? For Margaret Lewis, that question remained unanswered for 80 years. And when she finally found the answer, it changed her life forever. Margaret lived in Denver, Colorado. At 80 years old, she had lived a full life. She had raised children, watched grandchildren grow up, and experienced joys and heartbreaks like anyone else. But deep inside, there was always an empty space she could never explain. As a child, Margaret often felt different. She would stare at her reflection in the mirror and feel as if someone else should be standing beside her. She didn't know why. Then, when she was 16 years old, her mother sat her down one evening and revealed a secret that would stay with her forever. Margaret had been adopted. The news shocked her, but what came next was even more unbelievable. According to the adoption records, Margaret wasn't born alone. She had an identical twin sister. The sisters had been separated shortly after birth and adopted by different families. There were no names, no addresses, no way to contact her. Just the knowledge that somewhere in America, another woman shared her face, her DNA, and perhaps many of her dreams. That night, Margaret couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, imagining what her sister might look like. Was she happy? Did she know about her? Did she ever wonder where Margaret was? Years passed, then decades. Margaret got married and started a family, but she never stopped searching. She wrote letters to adoption agencies. She hired private investigators whenever she could afford it. She spent countless nights looking. Through records and databases, every lead eventually reached a dead end. Still, she refused to give up. Every birthday, she placed 2 candles on her cake before lighting the rest. One candle represented herself, the other represented the sister she had never met. Friends often asked, why? Margaret would simply smile and say, maybe one day she'll blow out her candle too. What Margaret didn't know was that nearly 1,000 miles away in Portland, Oregon, another woman was living with the exact same question. Her name was Eleanor Brooks, and she was Margaret's twin sister. Like Margaret, Eleanor had learned she was adopted. Like Margaret, she discovered she had a twin sister somewhere in the country. And like Margaret, she spent decades trying to find her. The 2 women were searching for each other at the same time, yet somehow, fate kept them apart. Years turned into decades. The sisters grew older. Their hair turned gray. Their children became adults. Still, the mystery remained unsolved. Then something incredible happened. On Margaret's 80th birthday, her grandson handed her a small gift box. Inside was a DNA testing kit. Margaret laughed. "What am I going to do with this?" she asked. Her grandson smiled. "Maybe it'll answer a question you've been asking your whole life." A few weeks later, Margaret received an email. At first, she almost ignored it, but when she opened the message, her heart nearly stopped. The DNA results showed an immediate family match, not a distant relative, not a cousin, a sister, an identical twin sister. Margaret's hands began shaking. She stared at the screen as tears filled her eyes. The name on the report was Eleanor Brooks. For several minutes, she couldn't move. She simply stared at the name she had waited 80 years to see. Meanwhile, in Portland, Eleanor received the exact same notification. She was sitting at her kitchen table when she opened the email. As she read the results, she covered her mouth in disbelief. "No," she whispered, "this can't be real." But it was. After 80 years apart, the sisters had finally found each other. A few days later, they arranged their first phone call. Margaret nervously stared at her phone as it rang. Her heart felt like it might burst from her chest. Then she answered. For a few seconds, neither woman spoke. There was only silence. Then a trembling voice finally broke through. "Hello? Margaret?" The moment Margaret heard those words, she started crying. "Is it really you?" she asked. Eleanor was crying too. "I've been looking for you my whole life." Neither woman could stop their tears. for the first time in 80 years. They were talking to the person who had shared their very first moments of life. Over the following weeks, they spoke every day. The more they talked, the more amazed they became. Both loved gardening, both collected recipe books, both hated spicy food, both had the same laugh, both even had the same habit of twisting a ring on their finger whenever they felt nervous. Similarities were impossible to ignore. It was as though their lives had followed parallel paths. Despite being separated for 8 decades, soon their families decided it was time. The sisters needed to meet face to face. The reunion was planned at Denver International Airport. As the day approached, neither woman could sleep. Margaret packed her purse several times, worried she might forget something. Eleanor carried a precious item with her, an old, black and white photograph showing 2 newborn babies lying side by side, the only picture she had of herself and Margaret, together. The day finally arrived. Margaret stood near the airport gate holding a bouquet of white roses. Her hands trembled. Her eyes searched every face coming through the terminal. Then she saw someone walking toward her, an elderly woman, gray hair, gentle, smile. Familiar eyes. Margaret froze. It was like looking into a mirror. Across the terminal, Eleanor stopped walking too. The sisters stared at each other. Neither could believe what they were seeing. 80 years, 80. Birthdays, 80 Christmases, 80 years of wondering, and now they were standing only a few feet apart. Suddenly, Eleanor dropped her suitcase. Margaret covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Then, both women started moving. They walked faster, then faster still, until they wrapped their arms around each other. The airport seemed to disappear around them. Nothing else mattered. "It's really you," Eleanor whispered through tears. Margaret held her tighter. "I've waited my whole life for this." People nearby stopped to watch. Some began crying. Others simply smiled. The sisters remained in each other's arms for several minutes. Neither wanted to let go. When they finally stepped back, Eleanor showed Margaret the old photograph. Margaret looked at the picture and burst into tears again. For the first time in 80 years, the 2 little babies in that photograph were together once more. Today, Margaret and Eleanor speak every day. They celebrate birthdays together. They spend holidays together. And they make up for 80 years of lost time, one precious moment at a time. When asked if she regretted waiting so long, Margaret smiled and shook her head. Then she said something nobody in the room will ever forget. Some miracles take a lifetime. But when they finally arrive, they're worth every second of the wait. And perhaps that's the lesson in this story. No matter how much time passes, no matter how impossible something seems, hope should never be abandoned. Because sometimes the people you're searching for are searching for you too. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone you love. We'll see you in the next heartfelt reunion story.